welcome to episode 4 of the Breaking Bio podcast. As always, for the last 3 episodes, I'm your host, Stephen Hamblin, from the University of New South Wales. I'm joined today by a motley crew. I've got, on my right, Tom.
Hello. I'm Tom Housley from the University of Stirling in Scotland.
All right, and we have Raphael.
How's it going? I'm Raphael from the University of Akron, Ohio.
And Bug.
Hey, I'm Bug Girl. I'm transmitting from an undisclosed location in Connecticut.
Well, for, what the hell was that?
I guess I should close my windows.
Oh, shit.
Actually, that was one of my drones.
Oh, God.
Forgot about
that.
Moving right along, we have Tom and Raphael, who went to Evolution in the past couple of weeks, I guess it's been now. And you guys owe us a report. So, what's the good word from Evolution?
For me, the best part of the conference was meeting Raphael and introducing him to Doug Futuma.
Oh!
Alright, so let's hear this.
Okay, so as probably you guys know, but maybe not everyone does, Doug Futuma is a pretty big name in evolutionary biology, and he wrote the textbook which is used by a lot of undergraduate courses. He came to visit my university a little while ago to give a couple of talks, and we ended up, well, he wanted to go bird watching, so I took him out for a weekend in the Highlands, where we saw lots of birds and got chased by capercaillies, which are huge, black, angry, turkey-like animals, which is pretty great. So Doug was at the meeting, and I know that he loves birds, so when I was chatting to Raphael and I saw Doug going past, I thought it would be a great opportunity to introduce them, as Raphael works on the starlings. I didn't quite imagine how nervous Raphael was going to be at this stage when I was like, here's Doug Futuma, tell him about your work. And I just saw this bead of sweat immediately start forming at the side of his head. It just started rolling down so slowly.
Yeah, I was not prepared for that at all.
Raphael, counterpoint?
I'm just standing there talking to Tom, and he's like, "Oh, here's my bud Doug, you know." It's like, "Oh, hey there."
So what did you manage to choke out?
Yeah, he asked me about my research, and I fumbled at that, obviously. And so I tried to explain what I did, and he was like, What does that mean? Like, what are you talking about?" So it was a bit nerve-wracking. Yep.
So what you're saying is you're not making it into the next edition of Evolution, then?
I doubt that very much.
I think Raphael is being far too self-effacing here, because he did an awesome job of describing it, especially when I put it in the context of when Doug asked me to describe what I did. It was after we'd got up at 4:30 a.m., spent the entire day in the sun wandering around looking for things, and then I'd driven 3 hours back to Stirling, and right at the end he was like, "Oh, you need to tell me more about your research," and I just couldn't make words. And after a little while he said, "I don't know what you're talking about," and I said, "I don't know what I'm talking about," and then we both decided that we should stop talking to each other. And
All right. So we've concluded neither of you are making it into the next edition.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Doug Futuma aside, any actual cool science out there?
There was a lot going on. There were like 13 to 16 sessions at the same time. And yeah, pretty much like everything you can imagine, from weird bug genitalia, which is always a favorite here, to flies that count. Like, there was this... I didn't see the talk. Did you see that one, Tom? The guy that taught...
No, I missed that one as well.
Yeah, I just saw a lot of people tweeting about this experiment that the guy made, that he taught fruit flies how to count, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff all at the same time. I stayed more in like the macroevolution ones, and so it was a lot of like just methodological presentations and things like that. It was really cool.
I really enjoyed, so Spencer Barrett gave a presidential address for CSEE, and he was talking about how funding is getting a lot tighter for Canadian scientists and, you know, science in general. And so he talked about what he, I think he claimed they were previous generation methods, and he showed a picture of his boots and his hat and a little collection, seed collection kit, and he was talking more about how, you know, we need to join up ecology and evolution, and people have to not be afraid of going out and doing some natural history. And so Spencer gives amazing talks anyway, so it was no surprise that this is great. But at one point he was saying, oh, here's some experiments that I did in my back garden and the journals that they were published in, and they included like an evolution paper and a nature paper and things that you could just see ever and sit and going, you dick. But yeah, it was really great, and just kind of talking about going back to basics and trying to do some good research. So it was a pretty inspiring talk. So that was really great.
Actually, Tom, I noticed in one of your blog posts on evolution, you highlighted Emily Snell-Rude, her talk on the cabbage waste she's working on. I was actually, you know, amused to see that, because the last conference I went to, she gave a talk there, and I went up afterwards and talked to her and said, "Hey, your system is really cool, and so we're working together now." But
awesome!
Yeah,
it was an amazing talk. I didn't actually know her work before, but it sounded really interesting, and yeah, it was fantastic. She packed a lot into a short space of time, but it was really well put together, and it was a really nice system where she was talking about how the ornamentation on this particular species of butterfly, the cabbage white, it's the UV, the UV pigmentation, I think it is, and it's based on nitrogen, which used to be a scarce resource, but ever since sort of around World War II, I think, then the amount of fertilizer that's been used in fields has shot up drastically. It's like an exponential growth of the amount of nitrogen that's available. So now all the butterflies have it, and it was looking at whether, like, because this was what female butterflies were using to select males, then was that pretty much ruining mate choice? So it was a really, really cool talk. And she just talked about a few of the experiments that she's doing now, which look really awesome. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on her stuff.
One thing that I did notice about evolution from a distance, as it were, and Bug, you may have noticed this, or you may have seen this go on as well. Were either of you guys at Rosie Redfield's talk?
Nope, I missed it. I think my talk was the next day, so I was back in my room frantically trying to finish my slides.
Yeah, I missed it too for the same reason, pretty much. It wasn't the next day, but I was starting to freak out because of my presentation, so I didn't go.
And that is why I do posters.
Yes. Yeah. I actually I prefer to present posters a lot more than oral presentations.
Yeah? Why?
Yeah, I think you get a better chance of talking to people one-on-one, you know, and you might only talk to one or two people, but it's people that are genuinely interested in what you have to say. So I don't know. I really like posters. I think they're very underrated. I think posters are awesome.
And you're not a fan of talks, Bug?
I like talks, but in terms of, for me, and having the best experience at a meeting, I like having a poster, because then I'm done, and I don't have the, oh my god, what about that slide, maybe I should change that slide. I don't have to spend any time at the meeting freaking out about my presentation, because it's already done. And so there's just kind of a certain fatalism. It's like, oh, geez, I used an apostrophe in it's. Well, too bad, can't change it now. So it lets you focus on the meeting more. I think for my own style, I'm a better presenter than I am a poster maker, but especially for entomologists, you get one meeting, and it's usually the entomology meeting, and being able to see everybody and talk to everybody and catch up on what everybody's doing is, in some ways, almost more important than presenting what you've done.
Yeah, that was actually a little bit of a drawback about the Evolution Conference, because it was so humongous that it was hard to find the people that you wanted to meet, and when you did, there were 20 more people that person wants to talk to, and so it was really hard. I only ran into Tom like a couple times, and we talked for a couple of minutes, and that was it.
And he randomly dumped Doug Fatumi on there.
Yes. What are the odds, right? In a conference that big.
But yeah, I didn't manage to speak to everyone who I wanted to speak to, which was a shame. But I still met a whole load of people, and also one night went out drinking with a bunch of random people, and it ended up there being one woman who I'd really wanted to chat to, and I only realised after a couple of hours that she was sitting across the table from me. So that was pretty good.
After a couple hours. How much had you had to drink?
Enough.
Enough.
It's different in Europe. Don't judge.
All right. Well, unless you guys have anything stellar to add, I think we can move on from evolution.
Well, yeah, that was good too.
I hate both of you. All right, Raphael, go.
Oh, there was Baba Brinkman's show, so that was pretty fun.
I heard about that. So
the Rap Guide to Evolution. It was really awesome. I mean, it was very entertaining, and there were a lot of people there, and I mean, there were a lot of people, but everyone was sitting down, after all. But it was just awesome to see a rap show with data being presented. He would put these charts and rap about them, and put these pictures of animals doing strange things. And
so, would you care to give us a sample? Yeah.
Yeah.
On the turntables.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. But I have some pictures I can send you if you want to add there.
Damn it, that would have been great blooper reel material. All right.
He did get some audience participation going though, which is pretty funny when you're seeing 55-year-old white academics chanting, "I'm African."
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh, I can picture that, and it's not pretty.
Oh. Hey! Let's not be harsh on the old academics here. What was that?
So my friend Kevin Judge did a really great talk on cricket-like insects and their sexual behavior, and this weird stuff where there's two populations that are interbreeding across a little hybrid zone, and there's sexual cannibalism going on in there, and males grabbing onto females with weird claspers that they have in their genitals. And it was all pretty great, and he showed a couple of videos which he prefaced with the words, "Here comes the requisite cricket porn," which has now become what any of us have to say before putting any kind of cricket sex videos or pictures up.
I love that this is a subgenre.
So that was really great. He got Carl Zimmer tweeted about the cricket porn, so it was pretty cool.
Well, who doesn't like cricket porn, really?
This is true.
Did you say cricket-like insects?
Yeah. So they're not actually crickets. They're called haglids, and they're these weird kind of ancient cricket-like beasts, and they're pretty terrifying looking. They're very cool. They're a lot so my crickets are very small and sort of delicate looking, and his are proper bulky, armoured looking things. And the cannibalism that goes on is when the female mounts the male, then he has these sort of fleshy wings, and she'll eat them. And he lets her eat them until he's latched on with this little sort of trap. It's called a gin trap on his genitals that he kind of grabs the female with. And then he'll try and sort of push her off so that she doesn't eat much more of his wings because they don't grow back. So it's all very strange and very cool. And they think that they're kind of interbreeding across, these two species are interbreeding because the call that the males make is very similar in the two different species. And the females probably hear that and just think, well, I could get myself a little snack here and just jump on and start chewing on the wings. And then when they do that, then the male just kind of grabs on and mates with them anyway. But yeah, I need to speak to Kevin more about what's going on in this because it's very, very cool. So hopefully he'll be publishing something about it soon, which would be great.
Oh, nice.
And speaking of publications, I don't know if you guys saw that. So Doug Emlyn gave a really good talk at Evolution Ottawa, and he just had his paper published in Science yesterday, which was really awesome.
The scarab beetle paper?
Yeah. So it's about sort of exaggerated ornaments and weapons. So with this rhinoceros beetle, it has this huge horn that comes out with a little fork on it, and the whole thing with sort of condition-dependent traits is when you have some kind of trait that involves a really close association with the animal's condition, but the males in the best condition will be able to grow a proportionately bigger trait. So the kind of slope of allometry is higher for these particular traits, and it just means that you have big males with these gigantic horns and small males with tiny little knobs. And they've found the developmental pathway for this, and so it goes across like all species really. So it's this insulin and insulin growth factor signaling pathways. So it's very cool stuff.
Yeah.
Although unfortunately my girlfriend works on signaling pathways, so now she thinks that, well, now she's asking me if I'm going to do any real science.
Well, at least you didn't criticize the size of your knob, so that would be bad.
Not at that particular instance, no.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the context. We put you in with insect sex Tom, and things just go badly awry. So.
But oddly enough, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Although not particularly sex with Tom, but I'm open. Okay, that's.
Well, we like to bring people together here,
Yeah. So anyway. More evolution or
No. I think we're good. You can take it away, Bug. What's on your mind?
Sure. Oh well, we had talked a little bit before about maybe having me talk about graduate school issues, and I thought it might be interesting instead to talk a little bit about, to some extent, what Tom and I do, which is talk about biological issues in a kind of sexy way and have fun with it, but also how does that how is that a career-building activity? So I wrote a post recently, we'll just use this as an example, about Spider-Man's lack of a penis. So if Spider-Man really was bitten by a radioactive spider and got all these spider traits, I mean, first of all, he should be shooting webbing out of his taint. And if he isn't, then okay, maybe I can see why they would not want to use that. First of all, having a little flap in the suit, that would be a problem. But let's say maybe he's got these mechanical shooters, right? So he puts the webbing in there, but then it's a pedipalp, right? Because spiders don't have a penis. And so I had this, discussion of, what did his penis fall off? Did it break off in Mary Jane? Where did his penis go? And the thing is, a lot of people read that post, and it's it is not the sort of thing that you would publish in American Entomologist or Journal of Ecological Entomology. But on the other hand, way more people read that and now know how to tell what a male spider looks like. On the other hand, I get a lot of, dear God, how are you ever going to get a job? And so I'm kind of, I wanted to kick out to you guys how you, because at this point I'm employed for at least another day, and I was kind of curious how you guys see this issue of the writing that you do and the fun that you have with it, and is it something that you do because you want to do it? Because, I mean, for me, I'd love to write, and so I would write stuff even if nobody read it. It's just a bonus when I write stuff and then Spider-Man fanboys go completely apeshit. It's like, oh my God, no, you don't understand. He's not shooting web from his taint. He made it chemically and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, whatever. But I mean, at this point, so many more people have read stuff that I've written online compared to people who actually saw my real research. It seems to me like it's sort of a personal win, if not a professional win. And so my question to you guys is, what motivates you to write, to talk like we are right now? You know, I'm driven to it because I just like to write and I like to be the center of attention. I'm sure that's a shock to everyone that I like attention. So what about you guys?
Well, personally, I don't really have that same experience because nobody really cares about the stuff I write about.
Oh, you had your dolphin gang rape blog.
Yeah.
That went crazy. That was amazing.
I think I've reached the first page of Google results or something, because all of a sudden I've seen this huge spike, well, huge for my traffic, but huge spike in dolphin rape searches every day. I'm getting like 100 searches for dolphin rape every day. And there's all, you know, you look at the search terms and it's all this whole list of different variations of dolphin rape. Do dolphins rape people? How do dolphins rape? And
yeah,
you know, but you put that aside, and for the most part, nobody cares.
Oh, I get really alarming search terms. Apparently, there's a whole subgenre of, I think it's hentai, that is insects and human sex. This very strange Japanese anime. Yeah, it's like, no, that's no, not what's on my blog. I'm probably the most disappointing click-through ever.
Yeah, I always wonder that with a lot of my search term referrals, whether there's a lot of incredibly disappointed people out there. I think especially because I seem to get, so for my Tumblr, which is the nature sex top tips one, then I get a lot of people from the Middle East who are looking for nature sex or sex natura, which is quite strange. But then for my other one, then so for my normal blog, then I did one post that was listing loads of places where you can get free online video lectures, and then all the rest of my posts are about sex, but generally to do with insect sex. So a lot of my search terms are sort of obviously combining those two things and looking for free online sex videos. I just kind of wonder how far down the Google results people are going. Like, at what page do you come up with my blog for that search? And I wonder whether a lot of it's in really weird countries, so, well, weird, far away ones. And I kind of wonder whether a lot of the, I don't know whether the porn there is removed from the searches, because they're just searching for sex and going to my blog somehow, and I don't know how many pages down you have to go for that. I would think of a reasonably fair way.
Well, you know, that's actually part of the problem. You know, again, putting aside the whole dolphin rape thing, for the most part, the topics that I talk about or the research that I do, it doesn't have that same sexy hook to it. You know, like I can't talk about Spider-Man's penis because, you know, I work on mathematical models of viral dynamics. Like it doesn't I don't have that hook, so I'm constantly searching for, ways to jazz it up or to, make it sexy. But, personally, I don't have that same built-in appeal right off the start that, an insect sex Tumblr will bring in the door. I don't know, Raphael, what do you think?
But you don't blog about your mathematical models. I mean, I think just that the stuff that you blog is more targeted to like scientists, like grad students and stuff like that, right? Like
well,
you write a lot about, like you wrote like a really good post about like group selection, stuff like that, which is, it's not going to attract, the huge number of people, but
it's not going to attract random people Googling about Spider-Man's penis.
Exactly, yeah.
I have actually tried writing about, more theory and
Spider-Man's penis?
Stuff, but...
Oh, sorry.
The mathematical.
I'm starting to think you're a little focused.
6 degrees of Spider-Man penis. Let's see how far we have to go.
I like it.
Oh no, we can't do that to the internet. Okay, we're gonna break something.
I hate to tell you this, guys. There are far, far worse things out there on the internet.
So I'll just add that, like, I don't have a blog, but I have a paper in which we measure testosterone in captive male birds. Mm-hmm. And that alone is enough to bring a lot of unwarranted traffic to my website. So people searching for captive males, which is something I didn't know was a thing, but you can Google that.
Yeah.
And it's just like testosterone males and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, there's a lot of disappointed people out there if they're coming to my site looking for that.
Or steroid junkies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a blog, Raphael, but you do spend a fair amount of time on Twitter. You do use social media. I mean, you're on Google+. Bug's question still stands. What drives you to do that sort of stuff?
I just like to talk a lot with people. I don't know, like, I never really thought about, like, my motivation or what drives me. I just like hearing what people have to say, and I mean...
You may have noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed, Bug is, clearly a standout here, but some of the last generation of scientists, like my advisor...
Wait! Hey! Where are you going
Sorry,
with
I phrased that improperly, but there's... I think Bug's never coming back. I think I've totally managed to offend her at this point.
Oh, no, I'm fine. Believe me, I am really difficult to offend. I mean, or to shock, for that matter.
Well, that's clearly true.
Yeah, well, that is true, yeah. No, I mean, I used to teach introductory biology. I taught introductory biology for like 15 years. And once you have put a condom on a banana in front of 800 18-year-olds, there is nothing that will faze you, ever.
That was part of your job, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes. In a classroom, yes.
Why did you need to put a condom on a banana for an introductory bio class?
Because some of them don't know you're supposed to roll it down. They just put it on like a little jaunty beret, I guess. I don't know. But yeah,
I need to go to your fucking bio classes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is amazing to me how little the average undergraduate knows about their own body. It was just astonishing. I
just want to say that if I ever need to teach that, I'm going to start with that sentence. It's not a fucking beret. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
We are looking at a full-on poncho here. This is not a beret situation.
That's good. I like it.
Okay. Oh fuck! I don't even know. What were we talking about? Jesus.
We were talking about sex.
Why we blog? Yeah. and Twitter and
right,
everything else.
Why be blogging and how blogging about sex might be career affecting sort of thingies.
Do you
But
worry about it coming back to bite you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It actually already has to some extent. So one of the reasons why I'm still a pseudonym, although honestly most people have kind of figured it out, is that where I used to work in Michigan, it's actually, there are lobbying laws. And so if you control a certain part of the state budget above a certain amount, or if you have a certain post above a certain level, you are prohibited from speaking publicly because it could be seen as lobbying. So I was ordered by my boss to stop blogging, even though I was doing it anonymously, because I said some things about the Extension Service budget cuts, which, by the way, is why I'm not in Michigan anymore. They cut my position. And I said, that's really stupid. And that was, yeah, it kind of went downhill from there. So there's also a lot of health bloggers are very concerned about how their NIH rankings could be affected. And that's something definitely when grants are getting really, really competitive that you definitely want to think about, that if you've written something or, for example, had a slide that says, hey, you reviewers fail, that'll come back at some point. So it's really more doing it with either deciding that you don't care or deciding that the people who are going to care about it are assholes, and so you don't care about them, or just saying, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, which is kind of my approach, unfortunately. In general, my career advice is do as I say, not as I do. Because pretty much if you want to find out how not to do stuff, you should just copy me. On the other hand, I do have a really high-level position. My boss is a vice provost, and so there's real consequences if I were to go around talking about Spider-Man's penis from the provost's office. That could maybe be taken a little strangely.
But you do raise a good point.
Which is?
Well, that there are consequences to what we're doing. Even this podcast or the blogging we do, that being on Twitter, social media is breaking new ground, and we're kind of in the middle of it. And how it relates to academia is still a little unsure. Yeah. I've seen people talking about whether like academic search committees will be savvy enough to search for your history online when you go apply for jobs. Tom, does that ever bother you when you think that somebody might find your insect sex Tumblr?
To be honest, I would only really want to work with someone who has a sense of humor about these things anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess, the next couple of positions I'll be going for will both be postdocs. So I would only really, I don't imagine that there's anyone who I would want to work with who would see something like that and would be in some way offended or think it was a terrible idea. I can imagine that they might think that you could have better ways of spending your time, such as being in the lab.
Yeah, that's what I hear more than, that it's like all the time spent in social media or blogging is time that you're not spending doing actual research. Like, that's the main criticism I hear, I guess, from...
Except that, the way I approach it, and this is a conversation I had with another graduate student, it's kind of like, especially for people like me that are not in an entomology department, that's how I have professional conversations, is online. And that's how I keep current with what's the cool stuff that happened at the evolution meeting. It's that social media connection. And it's basically like the hallway talk, where you're standing around in the hallway and you're talking to other graduate students. What are you doing? I don't know. My reagent doesn't work. What the hell? And so you can have that conversation. It's just the world's biggest hallway.
Yeah. It's just very hard to, convince people that aren't into it that's how it works. You know, like Twitter has become like one of the main ways in which I know about new research. I get articles that I don't have access to, and you know, get opinions about papers and about things that I might be doing wrong. And I mean, so to me, using it, it's, you know, it's an incredibly valuable resource. But at the same time, you know, I get rolling eyes sometimes when I mention, you know, oh, I read about this thing in Twitter, and I'm like, oh my god. So
you're one of those people.
Yeah, exactly.
My lab and my boss all make fun of me for using social media more than the rest of them. But I think, especially with blogging, that I tend to only write about things that I'm particularly interested in, and it's normally, a lot of it is a way for me to try and get the theory straight in my head, where if I need to try and write it out in a way that other people will understand it, then I'll understand it better. I did start trying to write a beginner's guide blog to quantitative genetics, and then just thought that was probably the worst idea ever. I don't really know how much of an audience there is for that, so that remains static at one post.
Oh yeah, probably not a huge audience for that. But the larger point actually about people not getting why we do this, I don't know, I'm kind of worried about it, because my next steps will be things like applying for either another postdoc, or I'm going to start applying for faculty positions.
Yeah.
And I'll be coming up against search committees who are full of people who don't get it.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, when you're, you know, Tom, you say, I don't want to work with anybody who doesn't, you know, think that's a good idea, and that's fine when you go to apply for a postdoc, but past that, you start running into troubles, because you have to satisfy more people. And I don't know what to do about that.
I can talk a little bit about, I actually did lose one job recently because of my blogging. It was really clear, because it was applying for a social media position. And I had just published the truly hilarious, there was a thing going on in Twitter about the GOP war on caterpillars, where it was this, they were interviewing some guy on one of the, actually I think it was the head of the GOP, this is the Republican Party for others, and he said, what, a GOP war on women? That's like declaring a GOP war on caterpillars. And so, of course, everybody just was like, okay, let's have some fun with that. And there was a huge explosion on Twitter of people making up sort of entertaining little slogans about the GOP war on caterpillars. And that post specifically was mentioned for why I didn't get that job. Because it was political. It was also, in my opinion, hilarious. Because, you know, I mean, some of the tweets were things like, caterpillars getting married will confuse children about why caterpillars are getting married. You know, it's one of the things where I kind of come down with Tom in the sense of, yeah, if they can't get it, it's probably not going to be a good match for me anyway. On the other hand, I'm in a really different place than somebody who's beginning their career. I mean, at this point, I have a whole trail of blazing bridges behind me, and it's not like setting more shit on fire is going to make any difference. So now we're back to do as I say, not as I do.
You really need to write a how-to book.
Yes. Step 1, get matches.
Step 2, find bridges. Got it.
Yes, yes, that's right.
So I mean, Bud, you obviously, you know, write under a pseudonym, but Steve and Tom, like, would you, for example, add your blog to your CVs?
Good question.
I actually, well, I haven't added it directly to my CV, but I've added my website to my CV, and my blog is linked from there. So I have no objection to the idea of adding it, mostly because I don't really talk about all things that are too very political. I've not really a conscious choice, just something I've never gotten too much into. So I don't really worry about the content I've posted. People may think it's boring as hell, but they're not going to think it's too controversial. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, every so often I go back through and asterisk out some swear words that I've written in. That's probably the least of my worries. Yeah, I guess my thinking has been that I need to get an all-encompassing website and then just put my blog and Tumblr as part of those, part of that larger website, and then I can just link to that. And then it doesn't really matter quite so much, as it won't be so obvious. But yeah, I don't see why not, but then other people might might disagree with me there.
Bug, you've said there was a couple negative aspects to your social media use, but has there been any unexpected positives?
Oh, thousands, millions. And I'm including individual followers there, because I have. I would say it is vastly more positive than negative. And some of that is just that I feel like I have all of these friends all over the world now. And when I went to Science Online, which I highly recommend if you're a scientist and you blog or tweet or whatever, go, it's awesome. There were people there that I felt like I had been friends with for years, even though I had never actually met them. And it's that same sort of thing I was talking about earlier, that you can have really great professional relationships with people even though you're not necessarily in the same city. And I feel like I know that when, for example, I went over to Portland, there were a ton of people there that I had never met that were like, hey, you can come and sleep on our couch. Or hey, let's go get a beer. And you meet some really wonderful people that way. And sometimes it's people who are high enough up in the food chain that they can actually retweet things and it kind of spreads. And so you can see really interesting things that are a lot of what I do is, okay, this information that's in the media about bees, that's not correct.
So do you think that do you feel like you're making a difference out there on the web?
I don't know. But I also don't care, because, again, it kind of gets back to the, I do and I don't care. So on the one hand, when things get retweeted and they kind of take off, I get super geeked about that. Because you can see, oh, this has been retweeted 100 times. Yes! But on the other hand, you also have to keep it in context. So last week, I posted a picture of squash and beans that came out of my garden. And I know from traffic stats, 200 people looked at pictures of my beans.
That sounds dirty, I'm not going to lie.
But that's more people than ever have seen any of all of my professional publications put together. And so you just have to have a little perspective about what does this really mean. And so I'd like to think that my bean pictures are creating an overall climate of goodwill towards gardeners. Oh. But more than that, it's having there be a voice out there that's like, hey, this is science and it's really cool. And the more that scientists can engage like that, and I think that's where G+ makes it really easy for us to do that, the better off we're all going to be.
All right, well, I think that's a good note to actually wrap this up, because we've been going for about an hour now. So thank you all for joining me for this 4th episode of the Breaking Bio podcast. I'd like to thank everybody who showed up today, Tom, Raphael, and Bug. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Steve.